The street bond that melted even the coldest hearts. The moment a homeless man shared his last piece of bread with a stray dog, nobody expected what would happen next or how it would change an entire city forever. In the heart of a bustling city where thousands rushed past each other daily without a second glance, where the concrete seemed colder than the winter wind, an unlikely friendship was about to unfold. This is not just another story about kindness. This is about a bond so powerful that it would challenge everything people thought they knew about love, loyalty, and what it means to truly care for another soul. Two forgotten souls. Marcus had been living on the streets for 3 years. Once a construction worker with dreams of building a better life for his family, a series of unfortunate events, a workplace accident, mounting medical bills, and a landlord who wouldn't wait, had left him without a roof over his head. The city that once promised opportunity had become an endless maze of cold nights and judgmental stares. People walked past Marcus every day. Some looked away uncomfortably. Others pretended not to see him at all. A few would drop a coin or two into his worn baseball cap, but rarely did anyone stop to look him in the eyes or ask his name. To most of the world rushing by, Marcus had become invisible, just another statistic, another problem they didn't know how to solve. On the other side of town, a scruffy golden-brown dog limped through alleyways, searching through garbage bins for anything edible. The dog, who would later be named Buddy by Marcus, had been abandoned months earlier. His fur was matted, one of his paws was injured, and his ribs showed through his thin coat. Like Marcus, Buddy had learned that the world could be a harsh and unforgiving place. The first meeting. It was a particularly cold Tuesday evening in November when their paths crossed. Marcus had found a spot near an old bookstore, a place where the building's heating vent provided a small measure of warmth. He had managed to buy a small loaf of bread earlier that day with the change people had given him, his meal for the next 2 days if he rationed it carefully. As Marcus broke off a piece of bread, he heard a soft whimper. There, just a few feet away, sat Buddy. The dog's eyes weren't aggressive or demanding. They were simply hopeful, tired, and filled with the same kind of exhaustion that Marcus felt in his bones. Most people in Marcus's situation would have guarded their food jealously. When you're hungry, every crumb matters. When you don't know where your next meal is coming from, sharing seems impossible. But Marcus saw something in those eyes that reminded him of his own reflection in store windows, the look of someone who had been forgotten by the world. If this story is touching your heart already, imagine what happens next. Keep reading, because this is where everything changes. Without hesitation, Marcus broke his bread in half and held out a piece to the dog. Buddy approached cautiously, sniffed the offering, and then gently took it from Marcus's hand. Instead of running away with his prize, as most stray dogs would, Buddy sat down next to Marcus and ate slowly, as if savoring not just the food, but the moment of kindness. That night, Buddy didn't leave. When Marcus lay down on his cardboard bedding, the dog curled up beside him, sharing warmth in the freezing night. It was the first time in months that either of them hadn't slept alone. An unbreakable bond forms. Days turned into weeks, and Buddy became Marcus's constant companion. The homeless man and the stray dog formed a routine that would have seemed ordinary to anyone with a home, but for them, it was everything. They would wake up together as the city began to stir, walk to different neighborhoods looking for work or food, and share whatever they managed to find. Marcus talked to Buddy constantly. He told him about his past life, his regrets, his hopes for the future. Buddy listened with the kind of attention that humans rarely gave Marcus anymore. The dog didn't judge, didn't lecture, didn't hurry away to important appointments.
He simply stayed, and that presence meant more than Marcus could express. People began to notice the pair. There was something about seeing them together, the rough-looking man with gentle eyes and the scraggly dog who never left his side, that made passers-by pause. Children would point and smile. Some people started bringing food specifically for Buddy, and Marcus always made sure the dog ate first. One elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, who owned a small restaurant nearby, started leaving out leftovers for them in the evening. "I put food for both of you," she would say in her accented English, refusing to differentiate between the man and the dog. To her, they were a package deal, a family unit that deserved to be treated with dignity. The day everything changed. It was a rainy April afternoon that the incident happened that would change not just Marcus and Buddy's lives, but ripple out to affect an entire community. Marcus had been feeling ill all day, but tried to push through it. By evening, he collapsed on the sidewalk near the park, fever burning through his body. Buddy immediately began barking, loud, insistent, desperate barks that he had never made before. The dog ran into the street, blocking traffic, running up to pedestrians, doing everything he could to get help. A young woman named Sarah, who had seen Marcus and Buddy around the neighborhood before, realized something was wrong. She called 911 while Buddy refused to leave Marcus's side, licking his face and whimpering. When the ambulance arrived, Buddy tried to jump in with Marcus. The paramedics initially wanted to leave the dog behind, but Sarah insisted. "He's the one who saved this man's life," she said firmly. "They stay together." This is the moment that sparked a movement. Want to know how one dog's loyalty inspired an entire city to change? The answer will restore your faith in humanity. At the hospital, the staff made an exception and allowed Buddy to stay in the waiting room. Sarah sat with him, posting updates on social media about what had happened. Her posts, accompanied by photos of the loyal dog waiting patiently for his friend, went viral overnight. Marcus had pneumonia and would need to stay in the hospital for several days. When he woke up, his first words were, "Where's Buddy?" The nurses assured him that his dog was safe, being cared for by volunteers who had learned about their story online. A city responded. What happened next was unprecedented. Sarah's social media posts had touched something deep in people's hearts. Here was a homeless man who had shared his last piece of bread with a stray dog. Here was a dog who had literally saved his owner's life. Here were two beings who had nothing but gave everything to each other. Donations poured in, but people didn't just send money, they sent love, support, and action. A local housing organization reached out, offering Marcus a spot in their program that helped homeless individuals transition back into permanent housing. A veterinary clinic offered to provide free medical care for Buddy, treating his injured paw and bringing him back to full health. Local businesses started a fund not just for Marcus and Buddy, but for other homeless individuals and their pets in the city. They realized that many people on the streets had animal companions who gave them a reason to keep going, but the challenge of caring for a pet while homeless often meant having to make impossible choices.
Mrs. Chen, the restaurant owner, organized a community dinner where Marcus and Buddy were guests of honor. Over 100 people showed up, many of them sharing their own stories of how the bond between Marcus and Buddy had inspired them to be more compassionate, to look people in the eye instead of past them, to remember that everyone has a story. Lessons in unconditional love. A local teacher brought her elementary school class to meet Marcus and Buddy as part of a lesson on kindness and empathy. The children sat in a circle as Marcus shared his story, Buddy resting his head on Marcus's lap. "What Buddy taught me," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion, "is that love isn't about what you have, it's about what you're willing to give. When I had almost nothing, sharing what little I had with him made me feel rich.
When he stayed by my side, even though he could have found someone with more to offer, he taught me about loyalty. One little girl raised her hand. "Were you scared when you were on the streets?" Marcus nodded honestly. "Every day. But when Buddy came into my life, I wasn't alone anymore. Fear is easier to face when someone faces it with you." These lessons are changing how an entire generation thinks about compassion. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, the best part is still coming. The story of Marcus and Buddy began appearing in local newspapers, then national outlets. Television crews came to document their journey. But through it all, what remained constant was the bond between them. Buddy's tail wagging whenever Marcus entered a room, Marcus's hand always reaching down to scratch behind Buddy's ears. The ripple effect. The impact of their story spread in unexpected ways. Animal shelters reported a surge in adoptions, with many people specifically wanting to adopt older or injured dogs, the ones who were often overlooked, just like Buddy had been. Homeless shelters that had previously not allowed pets began reconsidering their policies, recognizing that the bond between people and their animal companions could be a crucial factor in recovery and stability. A movement called Feed To started, where restaurants and individuals would prepare extra meals to share with homeless people and their pets. Volunteers formed walking groups, spending time with people experiencing homelessness and their animals, offering companionship and conversation without judgment. Local schools incorporated Marcus and Buddy's story into their curriculum, using it to teach about empathy, social issues, and the power of kindness. Students created care packages for homeless individuals and their pets, wrote letters of encouragement, and organized fundraisers. The city council, moved by the public response, allocated funding for programs that supported homeless individuals with pets, recognizing that these animals often served as lifelines, providing comfort, security, and a sense of purpose that could be crucial to someone's survival and eventual recovery. Marcus's new chapter. 6 months after that rainy April evening, Marcus moved into a small studio apartment. It wasn't much, just a room with a kitchenette and a bathroom, but to him it was a palace. More importantly, it was a palace where Buddy was not just welcome, but celebrated. Marcus found work at a construction company whose owner had been following his story. "I believe in second chances," the owner said, shaking Marcus's hand on his first day. Buddy, now healthy and well-fed, his coat gleaming and his injured paw fully healed, became a fixture at the job sites, spreading joy among the workers. But Marcus didn't forget where he came from. Every week, he and Buddy volunteered at the homeless shelter, serving meals and talking with people who were going through what he had experienced. He became an advocate, speaking at city council meetings and community events about the needs of homeless individuals and the importance of keeping people and their pets together. "Buddy saved my life," Marcus would often say, "but I think we saved each other. When you have nothing, having someone who believes in you is everything." The transformation of hearts. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Marcus and Buddy's story was how it changed people who claimed they didn't have a heart or who had become cynical about helping others. One businessman named Robert had been one of those who walked past homeless people daily without a second thought. "I told myself they had made their choices," he admitted in an interview later. "I convinced myself it wasn't my problem. But seeing Marcus share his bread with Buddy, seeing that dog save Marcus's life, it broke through something in me. I realized I had become the kind of person I never wanted to be." Robert started a nonprofit that provided job training and placement services for people experiencing homelessness. He personally mentored several individuals, including hiring 3 people at his own company. Marcus and Buddy didn't just change their own lives, they changed mine.
This is the power of one act of kindness. It doesn't just help one life, it transforms communities. And you can be part of this change. Stories poured in from across the city and beyond.
A teenager who had been struggling with depression said that following Marcus and Buddy's journey gave her hope and purpose. An elderly man who had lost his wife and felt utterly alone adopted a senior dog from a shelter and said it saved his life. A family started having weekly discussions about compassion and what they could do to help others, inspired by the bond they had witnessed. A symbol of hope. Marcus and Buddy became more than just a man and his dog. They became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love. Their image appeared on murals around the city, not as a reminder of homelessness, but as a celebration of the human and canine spirit. One artist created a bronze statue that was placed in the park where Marcus used to sleep, showing a man and a dog sitting side by side, sharing a meal. The plaque beneath it read, "In memory of all those who give, even when they have little, and to celebrate the bonds that make us human." On the statue's dedication day, hundreds of people gathered. Many brought their own dogs. Marcus stood with Buddy, tears streaming down his face, as speaker after speaker talked about how their story had inspired change, prompted reflection, and reminded everyone of what truly matters in life. "I was just trying to survive," Marcus said when it was his turn to speak. "I shared my bread because I saw a soul that was as hungry and alone as I was. I didn't do it for recognition or praise. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Buddy stayed with me because dogs understand something that humans often forget, that loyalty and love aren't about circumstances, they're about choice. The ongoing journey. Today, Marcus works full-time, has his own apartment, and has reconnected with his family. Buddy, now considered something of a celebrity, receives fan mail and treats from across the country. But their routine hasn't changed much from those early days on the street. They still walk together every morning, Marcus still talks to Buddy about everything, and Buddy still looks at Marcus with those same loyal eyes. The difference is that now, when they walk through the city, people smile and wave. Children run up to pet Buddy and ask Marcus about his adventures, and Marcus uses every opportunity to remind people that there are many others still struggling, still in need of the kindness that saved his life. The programs and initiatives inspired by their story continue to grow. The Feed Two movement has spread to dozens of cities. Shelters across the country have changed their pet policies. Thousands of homeless individuals have been helped, many specifically because people were moved by the story of a man who shared his bread and a dog who refused to abandon him. Your compassion can create this same ripple effect. Whether it's sharing a meal, offering a kind word, or supporting organizations that help those in need, every act of kindness matters. Every choice to see the humanity in others can change a life. The heart of it all. At its core, the story of Marcus and Buddy isn't about homelessness, though it sheds light on that crisis. It isn't just about animal welfare, though it highlights that cause beautifully. It's about something more fundamental, the recognition that we all need connection, that love transcends circumstances, and that sometimes the most profound acts of kindness come from those who have the least to give. Marcus, who once felt invisible, is now seen. Buddy, who once limped through alleys searching for scraps, now walks with his head high beside his best friend. Together, they proved that even in the coldest, most indifferent city, warmth can be found. Even among those whom society has forgotten, dignity persists. Even in the darkest circumstances, hope survives. Their story reminds us that we all have the capacity to make a difference. We might not be able to solve every problem or help every person, but we can all share our bread, whatever that means for us, whether it's food, time, attention, advocacy, or simply acknowledgement that another person exists and matters. A final thought. The next time you walk down a busy street, look around you. Behind every face is a story. Behind every person experiencing hardship is a human being with dreams, regrets, hopes, and fears just like yours. Behind every stray animal is a creature capable of profound love and loyalty. Marcus and Buddy's story melted even the hardest hearts because it stripped away all the complexity and excuses and showed us something simple and true. We are all just souls trying to survive in a difficult world, and kindness, real, selfless kindness, has the power to save lives. The question isn't whether you can make a difference. The question is, will you? Start today. Share what you have. See who others overlook. Be the person who stops to help. Your act of kindness might not just change one life, it might inspire a movement, transform a community, and prove once again that even in our most challenging times, humanity's greatest strength is its capacity for compassion. Marcus still carries the worn baseball cap from his days on the street, not as a reminder of hardship, but as a symbol of how far love can carry us. Buddy still has that same hopeful look in his eyes, the one that first drew Marcus to share his bread. And somewhere in the city right now, another person and another animal might be finding each other, creating their own story of survival, loyalty, and love. Because that's what Marcus and Buddy taught us, that the most powerful bonds are often formed in the most unlikely places, between the most unexpected companions, and that those bonds have the power to change not just two lives, but the heart of an entire world. This is more than a story. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that each of us has the power to create moments of profound connection and change. The only question is, what will you do with that power? How will you share your bread? Who will you see when others look away? The world needs more people like Marcus, willing to give even when they have little. The world needs more hearts like Buddy's, loyal, hopeful, and full of unconditional love. Be that person. Have that heart, and watch as the ripples of your kindness spread further than you ever imagined possible.